So if you have a vocal sample like this is from Splice, by the way, and you get to the end and you're looking for some type of break or even vocal chop, here's a really easy way to do that, and it's actually a lot of fun as well. So what you can do is just insert a MIDI track just like that, and you want to take the sample, but my sample is actually pretty long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy and paste it somewhere else, and I'm going to consolidate that sample. And then I'm going to go into the MIDI track. I'm going to just drag that sample into MIDI, and it's just going to automatically create an instance of Simpler. So we can just delete that track there. We're going to click on Slice. So as soon as you have Slice and you have the MIDI track armed like this, you can actually play all the chopping up of the samples by transient. You can change by beat. So for example, you can have 1/8 beat or 1 bar. And also you've got manual where you can just add your own things like beats. You can just move them around if you want. In this particular example, we're just going to use transient, and as you'll notice here, the sensitivity is 100%. If you just decrease that, you'll see less bars go, so you have bigger chops and less notes to play with. And then you've got 3 playback options. You've got mono, poly, and through. Mono, you can just play one note at a time. But with poly, you can play more than one. You can play up to 6 voices in this case. Okay, and then there's through, which means any of the samples you play will just start at that sample and then keep going until it finishes. But in this case, we're just going to use mono. And the reason for this is because I think this is probably the easiest way to create those chops. So let's go ahead and do that. I've already armed the track, so I'm just going to start recording. Okay, so we have a little basic recording there. I'm just going to group it so it's in 4 bars and press Ctrl J so we can just consolidate that. Right click, we'll just make sure it's quantized. I think it is already, but we can just quantize it like that. And then we can actually just listen to the things we've selected. So we're just really recording the rhythm. Because we can just change some of these like this. And we can just change the notes. And that's it. So we're just going to duplicate that. There we go. And we've got a little chopped up little ditty to go. If you want, you can actually speed it up by clicking this divide by 2 button. But actually make sure you've selected the whole bar like that. Okay, let's hear how that sounds. So elements of that sounded okay, but in this instance, I'm just going to leave it as is. Then what you want to do is bring in a delay. So I've got a Valhalla delay. You can use any delay, an Ableton delay if you want. So we use a dotted eighth. Now, if you want, you can bring in Kickstart, which is a sidechain, which I just use pretty much on everything now. It's a sidechain emulation. And obviously you can just go in and start manipulating as you want. Now, another thing you can do isn't just the vocals. You can go into, say, your sample pack and look for some, it just goes with one of these loops. Now, the track is in F minor. So we'll just take any random thing like this. I'm just going to bring this into a new track like this and solo the track. And just create another MIDI track just like that and do exactly the same thing. Just bring that track in like that. I'm going to solo this and we're just going to slice that. We'll start auditioning. So what's really cool is you can actually go into the sample itself and click on this reverse button, or you can click R on your keyboard and that will reverse the sample. Let's hear what that sounds like. Now let's also bring that into a new MIDI track like that. And we'll slice that one as well. And this would sound, it's got the same bass sound, but it will sound pretty different. Once again, we can just go in and change. Now, if you're not too excited about that, what we can do is we can do some further processing. So we could, for example, freeze the track. Freezing will just literally embed everything that's in there and record it to a sample. So in this case here, we have a sample. So while that's not perfect, it gives you a few ideas of how you can use that sample. And we can do some further processing using RC20. So for example, we can bring in a phasing fun preset. Phasing fun is a really good preset because it phases the sound, as obviously as it says. If we just go to the maximum latitude. So what it does there is it just changes the phase, and that's actually good for mixing because sometimes there's clashes in frequencies, but this changes the phase within the frequency. Add some space. In fact, we could do something similar with the vocals, so we can duplicate those vocals, freeze and flatten those vocals. Now those vocals are now audio files. Let's just take a quick listen. Now what we can do that's super interesting is we can turn those into almost into percussion. Doesn't always work, so you need to play around, but let's just try a percussion 16. And just to differentiate that, we're just going to bring an instance of RC20 into that as well. Now there's a preset in RC20 called magnitude, so we use magnitude transition 2. We're just going to click on the magnitude button there like that, so we can automate the magnitude. So let's just do that. We'll listen to it solo, and then we'll listen to it with the track. In fact, let's copy that also into the guitar synth. So we've got two instances of retro. Let's copy the instance of that into the master. So that's going to copy all that automation as well. And then in the master, we'll just go back to retro color. We're just going to completely switch the magnitude off. So let's take a listen. That way the beat comes in nice and solid.